Before I start, please let me thank GiD team to organize this event. My name is Eduardo Soudah and I am working at the Biomedical Engineering Group of CIMNE. And today I will share with you an automatic interface for generated arterial stenosis which has developed inside GiD and coupled with Kratos. The team involved in this development were Agustina Giuliodori, PhD student at the Biomedical Engineering Group of CIMNE, Francisco Javier Garate, Senior Developer at GiD team, Rubén Zorrilla, postdoctoral student and Senior Developer at Kratos team, and myself. Stenosis Generator is an interface between GiD and Kratos. We are using all GiD pre and post capabilities to generate the stenosis model and the CFD Kratos solver to obtain the main cardiovascular indicators such as pressure drop, wall shear stress, temporal wall shear stress, amongst others. Stenosis Generator consists of 4 steps: geometry definition, material definition, boundary condition, and simulation setup. Here we have step 1 of the wizard geometry definition. Right now we have 4 different types of stenosis based on the article of Robert Mates in 1978, Fluid Dynamics of Coronary Artery Stenosis. We have all the option to create symmetric and non-symmetric stenosis with different shape: cylindrical, spherical, triangular, and trapezoidal stenosis. All models can be exported to EGS and DXF formats. In the next slide, Agustina will explain how the model can be easily created.
In this video, you can see the different parameters that we can set in order to obtain the best geometry. All these parameters can be related to medical images of specific patients, so you can create the models taking into account particular anatomical properties. For instance, we can change the diameter of the stenosis, narrowing it, or, on the contrary, making it broader, as you can see in this slide. In consistency with clinical outcomes, we can choose different stenosis types, such as circular or spherical stenosis. It can also be created with a triangular shape, as shown here. Finally, we can choose a trapezoidal stenosis type.
Remark that when the geometry is created, 4 groups are directly created: inlet, outlet, skin, and volume of the stenosis artery. Later on, we will use this group to assign the material and boundary condition automatically. Then we have to define the material properties of our model. We can choose between Newtonian or non-Newtonian fluid, and there is an interface that we can set all the parameters for each model. These properties are directly assigned to the group defined previously as fluid. After assigning the material properties, we have to define the boundary condition for our model. Related to the inlet, we can define a parabolic or flat profile, and constant or time-dependent inlet, for example, if we want to set a cardiac pulse. These conditions are also directly assigned to the entities created previously. Then, we create the mesh and define the output variables of our model. We can define several cuts along the center line of our model for visualize the results in a cross-sectional planes. The output files can be written in BTK or GiD post. One of the main variables we can compute is the wall shear stress. The wall shear stress is the tangential force of the fluid on the intimal layer of the artery. Wall shear stress is related with the viscosity of the fluids and the wall shear rate. Normal values of the wall shear stress produce that the intimal cells are aligned on the direction of the fluid, as you can see in the picture below to the left. However, on the contrary, wall shear stress can damage the endothelial cells and injure the arterial tissue, as you can see in the picture below to the right. Next slide shows the wall shear stress rate indicator that we are able to calculate. This slide shows the wall shear stress rate indicator. It's well known that there is a direct relation between the atherosclerotic plaque and the wall shear stress. When wall shear stress is low and oscillatory, a pro-inflammatory signaling pathway in the endothelium begins, resulting in an increased endothelial cell permeability and trigger on the atherosclerotic plaque. Next indicator is the oscillatory wall shear stress index, OSI, OC represents the change of the direction of the wall shear stress vector from a predominant blood flow direction during the cardiac cycle. Next, the temporal wall shear stress is how wall shear stress changes along the cardiac cycle. Next indicator is the relative residence time, RTT. RTT is the time of the particle, in our case blood particle, is in contact with the arterial wall. The last indicator is the endothelial cell activation potential. It's the relation between the OC, oscillatory wall shear stress index, and the temporal wall shear stress. All these variables indicators are computed over the skin of our model. Even more, this parameter can be associated with other cardiovascular disease. For example, low wall shear stress, high oscillatory shear index, and high relative residence time have been correlated against increased uptake of inflammatory markers in the vessel wall and may improve risk stratification of the abdominal aortic aneurysm. This slide shows the velocity profile in a longitudinal cross-sectional plane of different stenosis models. Another important aspect of the stenosis generator is the automatization process. We have created a GiD script to define a range of input variables to create automatically several models. In that case, we have created a GitHub repository with more than 200 coronary models, only changing the radius and the length of the stenosis and the radius of the coronary. If you want further information about the CFD solver, you can check BIOFLUID application inside Kratos. We have created an example case called Coronary case that you can download and replicate in your computer. In this slide, you can see two videos, velocity and pressure distribution for one real coronary case using BIOFLUID application. In this slide, we show the interaction between the stenosis and STENT generator. Both are problem type of GiD, and we only use the pre-processor part of GiD. So, we use the stenosis generator to create our stenotic vessel, okay? And we use our STENT generator to create our STENT model. Then we export both model and import this model inside Abacus to compute or to calculate the contact pressure distribution on our stenotic vessel, as it is shown in the figure. Okay? For further information about the STENT generator, you can see the video of Agustina in the past GiD event 2020. Just to mention that the stenosis generator is ready to export the input file for Kratos and Abacus, but it is quite easy to generate input file for other solvers as ANSYS or FEBIO. Right now, we are adding a new parameter. This parameter is the curvature of the artery, so in that way we can easily create curved stenotic arteries to recreate new scenarios. Future step will be coupled stenosis wizard with the fluid structure interaction model of Kratos. So in that way, a three-dimensional idealized FSI model will be constructed to perform the blood plaque and blood vessel wall interaction studies. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you need more information, please do not hesitate to contact us through our mails. Thanks.